and would like to welcome to the show former Alabama safety, Mr. Roman Harper. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sorry Stingray couldn't make it. I know he was originally the one who reached out to you, but we're super
You're
excited
stuck
to
with
have
us.
you. Yeah, you're
It's
stuck
all right,
with
man.
us. And
Next man up, man. That's the mentality, right? Next man up. Sorry, I'm just doing some laundry, man. I got
oh, you're good.
4 kids and a wife, man, and I'm the one that does laundry. So sometimes it starts to add up pretty fast.
So, former Alabama player, won a Super Bowl with the Saints, but what have you been up to recently?
Oh man, I working with SEC Network, and really just enjoying this part of my life and this new chapter, this new journey. It's been awesome, and we got 2 SEC teams in the college football playoff final. So just looking forward to going up to Indianapolis. I fly out tomorrow. Should be nice. Had a great New Year's and Christmas. Really just because Alabama won the Cotton Bowl, so I was there for that, and it was great. So I really have zero complaints, guys.
Yeah, and I seem to remember you catching a lot of heat, on social media the last time Georgia and Alabama played, right? You were on there saying Alabama's going to run Georgia. So how do you see the rematch replaying?
So I never said that they were going to run them. People got mad and
Yeah.
got on their feelings because I said Georgia didn't have a great pass rush, that they have really big and physical guys up front that are great at stopping the run, but they're not like excellent pass rushers. That's their best pass rusher had been suspended due to off-field actions and things of that nature. So it just didn't look the same. I know what I'm looking at when I'm watching these teams and breaking down the tape because emotionally I'm not invested in it like that. Once I stop playing ball, I just kind of look at it for the X's and O's. And to me, that's been the best part of it, is that I don't hold on to plays that I messed up, or emotionally I'm not attached to it. So now I can just watch it from just a pure football eye and just know what I look at, and then just go from there and just talk about what I see. And I saw the matchups. I think this game would be a little bit differently because I think Georgia will go about it defensively a little bit differently. I think they will. If you just listen to what the coordinator Dan Lanning is saying, what George is saying, and some of the pressers, is that they cannot do or allow what happened last game to happen, and that was that Bryce Young. They didn't feel like they pressured Bryce Young enough. So if I'm listening to that, they're going to be blitzing Bryce Young from the moment he gets off the bus and the moment they get into the stadium. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that dynamic plays off. How does Brian Robinson fit into that equation? And when I say Brian Robinson, I don't mean about how many rushing yards, but more how great of a blocker is he on those second, third down pass plays. And when Georgia decided to bling Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Channing Tindall in those intermediate blitzes in the middle of the offensive line, how does Brian impact those? How does he pick up those blitzes? He's been excellent when doing that all year long, and also him just kind of sneaking out of the backfield. He had 3 or 4 really big plays for Alabama. It's going to take Brian Robinson to have one of his better games, especially when it comes to picking up protections.
So obviously you're a former defensive player and a great one at that. But what
Thank
do you
you.
think that sets Georgia's defense apart from all the other ones that are in the college football? Like, people were talking about Georgia being potentially one of the best defenses of all time. What do you think sets them apart this year?
Well, number one, how big they are. They're a very big team, especially up front. They got massive human beings up there. They stop the run. They don't allow anybody to get anything going in that. And then I thought the most impressive thing watching them all year long was their linebackers, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, and Channing Tindall. And of course, Nolan Smith, but he's more of an edge guy for them. But those 3 guys that rotate in the middle, they fly around, they hit people, they're smart, they're instinctive, and they get there with bad intentions. So they are the tone setters in that defense. They make plays in the second, like in the pass game and the run game. They just affect the game so many ways. And teams can't run by them because they have such great team speed. And so often we're used to so many college teams now where, freshmen, sophomores, juniors. Well, this team is a lot of juniors and seniors. It's a lot of guys that's played a lot of ball together. They've been through the wars. They've lost a lot of games. They've won a lot of games. So this is a totally different team that most people are used to seeing in college, and they're definitely showing it. They are experienced, and they're just so good at the linebacker position. To answer your question, it's the linebackers.
Okay. And then I was just kind of wondering, obviously you said you're not emotionally like invested in it the way you were as a player. But having played before the Nick Saban era, what does it feel like to watch like your alma mater have this kind of, dominance now in college football?
Well, it's a run that's probably never going to be matched again. Let's just be flat out honest. And I don't think people understand when you're living in the good old times or the good days, you don't really appreciate it as much. But I'm on the outside looking in, so I do appreciate it because I was there when we were not winning championships. We were not winning that many games. So, and I'm just thankful, actually. I'm thankful that Nick allows me to come around and be a part of the program whenever I choose to. I'm thankful that they have a completely open door policy with me, that they allow me in the locker room around the players, especially because I didn't play for him. And he's gotten to know me over the years and respectfully. I respect him and he respects me, and it's great. So the relationship that I've been able to build with him and that program since then has been awesome. So I'm very thankful for that. And just straight up, I got to be 100% with you guys. I'm even more thankful how much money they won me when I was playing in the locker room, when I was playing football and betting all my teammates. Now I just can't find anybody to bet me anymore. So even all my Georgia guys that were all talking earlier, they're all quiet now. I ain't heard a peep of them all week. So we'll see if anybody calls before Monday.
Yeah, ain't no one betting against Alabama anymore, unfortunately.
Well, I don't know. According to Vegas, somebody is. So Yeah. So it'll be very interesting how this whole thing plays out. But Vegas, they don't care who wins the game. They're more interested in making money.
So I got one more quick question before I hand it over to my co-host. But Pete Golding, right? I'm sure you see all the hate he gets on social media, especially Twitter. But statistically, if you look at the numbers, this Alabama defense has actually been pretty darn good this year. So how do you think this team ranks to some of like the more dominant defenses of the past?
Well, it just hasn't been as pretty. They've gotten better all year long. They've had some really bad games, some uncharacteristically bad games. They figured out who they are, and sometimes that's what it takes, especially with a young team. This team is still a very young team. Their best players are sophomores and juniors. They're not seniors, and that's what we are so used to having Nick Saban as a dominant defense and things of that nature. That at least Alabama fans are, and that's what they're used to. But in today's college football, Nick says it all the time. You got to win by scoring points. You have to score points, and the rules don't allow you to play shutout or just lockdown defense anymore. So you got to be creative in the things that you do, and schematically as well. And I think Pete has done a great job. And when I watched him since the Arkansas game, I saw a little bit of a change. And it's not about schematics as much as they started to figure out who they are. Will Anderson was becoming the leader, Henry To'oTo'o, Christian Harris. These guys just started figuring out the linebacker position, and they started to come together. Dallas Turner's another guy who's really emerged as a true freshman, edge rush player that's really making plays for this Alabama team. And it was all about the secondary. Arkansas, I thought it was one of the better games that the front seven had played all year long. It was just a secondary that gave up a lot of explosive pass plays. And as they continue to nullify those explosive pass plays, giving up less and less every game, the defense looks better every game. You got to remember, Georgia only allowed 80-something yards a game, and Alabama was only behind them by like a yard on the season. So they were been good all year long. It's not like it just happened out of nowhere. The biggest thing was they were giving up too many explosive pass plays, and I think as they have improved in that stat, the whole defense has improved as a whole.
Gotcha. And we do have one viewer question real quick. So Christian asks, would you say that if Alabama wins, would this be Nick Saban's most unlikely championship? And also, what do you see Alabama doing on offense, like differently to have success against Georgia this game?
I don't know. Look, man, Nick's won so much. Definitely, I don't ever say like I count them out. I didn't think they'd be where they are right now. I would say that. I picked Georgia to win the SEC, and I picked Georgia to win the national championship preseason. So, but as I got closer to the game, I just looked at the matchups, and I thought Alabama had the matchup favor. Not only that, but mentally, beat Alabama. Sometimes, I can sit up here and say like, oh, I want to go run a marathon tomorrow, but until I run a marathon, can I really do it? And that's where I feel like Georgia's been at. That's where I feel like they still are at. That not only that, but the fans feel the pressure. That Georgia hadn't been in a tough game all year long until they played against Alabama, and they were not able to respond once they got down. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens. And I could see Georgia winning this game by 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't be shocked by that because if Georgia gets up and they play the game on their terms, they will win the game because they're able to run the football and they choke you out on defense like they do a UFC fight. They get on top of you, they ground and pound you, and it's over. But if Alabama is able to respond, Georgia went up 10-0 against Alabama, then Alabama ran off 17 straight. Georgia scores 7, and then Alabama hits off another whatever point straight. So, and Georgia could never recover after that. And so that is how Alabama has to be able to respond when Georgia makes plays because we all know how good Georgia is. Talent-wise, from top to bottom of the roster, they're more talented than Alabama. But Alabama has the best players in the most important positions, which is quarterback, head coach, and if you look on defense, who's the best defensive player in the game, say Will Anderson. Most people, if you know what you're looking at, would say Will Anderson. The Kobe Dean a close second, but Will Anderson is the best player on defense on both for either sides of the ball. So Alabama has those advantages. They just have to take advantage of it, and their best players have to play really good to win that game, and that's what you saw out of Bryce Young. He literally won that game for them in the SEC championship by his play, his decision making, and his ability to create with his legs and not turn the football over.
So going back on your defenses when you played at Alabama, and you look at those defenses and you look at the defenses now, what is the biggest difference? Because you hardly ever see shutouts or a real defensive game in college football anymore.
Well, the biggest thing is size. They are way bigger than we are. Number two, the rules. You have to be able to score. The rules don't allow you to do that. The RPO game is a different thing where now offensive linemen can come 3 yards down the field and still throw the ball. Where if I'm a safety, if I see an offensive lineman come down the field, that's a run trigger for me. I'm ready to play the run, but then I still got to play the pass. So then it just makes everybody slower to think and softer at times on the point of attack. But that's just the name of the game. People want to see points. They don't want to see shutout defensive games. They just don't want to see that. When we beat Tennessee, 6-3, they don't want to see that anymore. They just don't want to see it. So I thought it was a great game, but people don't want to see that. And people pay a lot of money and watch a lot of TV to watch Alabama score a lot of points. And that's how they win games now, scoring 30-something, 40 points a game. That's just every day. That streak of 30 straight, 30-point games for Alabama is like ridiculous at this point. So we see the game and the team has changed over time. And Nick Saban has done a great job of adjusting with the times and keeping up offensively. That when everybody else was speeding up the pace and Alabama was playing they were only getting 60-something, 70 plays in a game. He's like, we have to speed up the tempo. All these teams, we're having to defend 80-something, 90 plays defensively, and we're only playing 60-something. We're tiring our own guys out. We have to be more efficient about where we're going about these games. So I give him a lot of credit for when you're at the top of the game, still being able to change and evolve when everybody else says you got all the answers. He's like, no, we don't. We have to continue to get better and change things up, or we won't stay at the top.
Gotcha. Joe, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you think Alabama will be complacent with their play calling offensively? I know Bill Bryan has a tendency this year of kind of sitting back and waiting for things to happen instead of taking action and taking charge.
No, I don't think so. The last time the SEC championship, I thought Bryce Young had to throw the ball 45 to 50 times to win that game. And I'm in the same boat this time. Maybe not as many. I'm thinking around 38 to 42 passes, 38 to 45 passes. You got to open it up. Your only advantage on offense is the quarterback, not the offensive line, not the receivers, not the running back. It's the quarterback. You must unleash this young man and let him do what he does and go out there and win you a game. He's effective. He's accurate. His ball placement is amazing, and he doesn't turn the football over unless he's pressured. And if you're Georgia, you want to try and pressure this man. You cannot allow Bryce Young to beat you, and you have to blitz him. You have to do whatever it takes to make him uncomfortable, and just hope that he makes a mistake. He didn't play great against Cincinnati, but Alabama was able to run the ball effectively, and I thought that was the game plan to win that game. This game, it has to go back to what it used to be, and Alabama has to throw the football. You're not going to be able to run the football against Georgia's defensive front. They're just too big and they're too good, and your offensive line isn't better than theirs. So that's not an advantage. Your only advantage is Bryce Young. Cut this young man loose, and I think they're going to do that. Bill O'Brien's not a dumb coach. He knows what he's doing. He's a really good play caller. He struggled at being the GM of the Houston Texans. That's why he's not there anymore. It wasn't because of the play caller or coaching. It's because of the GM part of it.
So obviously we've been sitting here talking about this game and previewing it. What is the official Roman Harper score prediction for this game?
I don't have a score. I don't do scores. I do think. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and say that Georgia's going to beat Alabama. I'm not going to be the one to go out there and stick my neck out there and say that Georgia's going to do something that they haven't done before. And I do think that Georgia is a more talented team, has a more talented roster from top to bottom. But Alabama, in the biggest games, in the biggest moments, the two most important things that matter the most in college football are the head coach and the quarterback. And Alabama has that advantage in both of those categories. So for that reason alone, I'm going to continue to roll with the Tide.
Love to hear
it. Thank you so much for joining us, Roman. But before you go, we gotta let you give a quick shout out. So tell everyone where they can find you, what you've been up to, what you're gonna do in the future.
Yeah, man. You can find me on Twitter at Harp41. I don't tweet a lot. I just not a huge social media guy. It don't pay me enough, so I don't really care about it. And then on Instagram, I'm Harp_41. So I'm more active on that, but mostly just because I'm showing off my kids and doing daddy daycare stuff. So it's always fun for me, and I keep it loose. And my foundation, harpershope41.org. You can come check us out. We're always trying to do more and more. Been really kind of slow actually the last year just because of COVID. Just want to be safe. Everybody stay safe, stay smart. And just knowing that this thing's still going around spreading like wildfire. So mask up, do what you got to do because we don't want to lose any more family members.
Gotcha. Well, Mr. Roman Harper, thank you so much for joining us. It was a great time. So,
Hey, man, thank you guys for having me, man. Anytime.
Thank you.
And, appreciate you guys. Great questions. And because I'm not working today, I can say it. So roll Tide.
Roll Tide.